So as we start with the election of 1860 and the Civil War on a storyboard, I want to make sure that you guys understand, like I said, the overall story for History 2.1. Again, the main protagonist is President Lincoln. He is, in this timeline, he is currently the 16th president of the United States under the U.S. Constitution. The main antagonist in this story, and of course, these are personified. You got a lot more characters here, but we're saying to make the story simple, the main antagonist is the former U.S. Senator from Mississippi, Jefferson Davis. He becomes the president of this new Confederacy. So these are the two individuals that, we need you guys to understand. So the Union versus this new Confederacy, these are the two overall leaders that are trying to create two countries over politics and over economics. The setting for this time is a 5-year period, 1860 to 1865. Where's the setting? Where does it take place? In the U.S. South region. Okay, so this is mainly all the battles. 90% of the battles are fought from Virginia all the way to Texas. So it's only but 2 major battles fought above Virginia. It's not many fought in the North, just 2 battles. If you count the battles in Maryland, the battles, the 1 battle in Pennsylvania. Everything else is fought in the South. The internal conflict is the huge one in this story, guys. When we talk about who has rights, who has liberty. The internal conflict, we talk about slavery and states' rights. Do the states have the right to choose their destiny at the peril of the rest of the country? Does an individual state have the right to do that? And then this concept of slavery, if we're supposed to be about liberty and justice for all, how can you justify the enslavement of another ethnic group for economic gain? The external conflict, again, is the economic trade with Europe. And so that's one thing that's pushing it, because we need the cotton. We need the cotton. Europe buys a lot of our imports from American cotton. It's a big business. And this is what's fueling this independence and this lifestyle. When we look at the theme that's happening, the overall theme, redemption. You're going to see this a lot from Abraham Lincoln. If you looked at his Gettysburg Address activity, the Emancipation Proclamation activity, you will see him speak a lot about redemption and religion themes into it. The other ones are about freedom and liberty, having the choice. And this is what the states wanted. We want choice to be able to break from the group if I don't like what's going on and not just have to take it. The secondary characters are the Union generals. We got General Meade, we got General Grant, we have General Sherman versus Confederate generals that you hear about, P.T. Beauregard and General Lee and General Longstreet. And, there's about 4 generals on each side. And they set that up. Of course, there's many more people involved. Of course, these are huge battles, but the generals are kind of like our principal. If you guys do good, let's say Mr. Scales is not going to get a lot of credit in that. The credit technically is going to go to the leadership of Ms. Hayes. Well, Ms. Hayes has put her teachers in a position to do X, Y, and Z by the policies and the rules that she sets in place and the standards she wants in her school. That's how it's played out. It's not played out that Mr. Scott or whoever is a great teacher or anything else. When people look at the school, who represents the school is Ms. Hayes. She is the acting principal here. So I want you guys to think about it in those terms, that we're overgeneralizing. Of course, you got privates and commanders and everybody else down the chain of command, but these battles are usually set up, or who's orchestrating it as the administrator are the generals. The generals are the administrators. The irony of this is what is created at the end is called the lost cause myth. The lost cause myth starts almost immediately after the Civil War, when we start in Reconstruction, and it grows as we're going to later see, the irony that the South's like, well, we really didn't lose. You know, yeah, we physically lost, but we really didn't lose. And you're going to see it get played out even more, because you see this heroic heroism that is thrusted upon General Lee, thrusted upon Davis, that, yeah, we had to quit, but we really didn't lose. And it's like, you lost, get over it. And they're like, no. This spinning of disinformation to say, you know, yeah, the Black people got, and they're free, but they ain't free. And you'll see this lost cause myth get spun out over the next 20 years, the next 3 units. You will see what gets played out. It's a spin on, you know, was it a lost cause? We didn't really lose. We still got what we wanted in the end. Okay, we got most of what we wanted, so we really didn't lose. So we're going to go through the timeline right now and show you going through the steps what we need you guys to understand moving forward, talk about them, and then we'll move on with today. So the first one that we want to talk about is the introduction. So I'm gonna move this up right here so we can go through 1 through 4. Okay. Hopefully the lighting and everything is working out pretty well so you guys can see it. The first one is the election of 1860. This is where it starts. It's the introduction. Abraham Lincoln runs against 3 other people. The Democratic Party is split, and he becomes the 16th president of the United States. He's elected in November of 1860 with 40% of the popular vote and 180 electors. He was not on the ballot with 10 Southern states, did not even put him on a ballot. And because of this, the fear, because he's written a lot of anti-slavery, not abolition. Abolition is the banning of slavery. He was not for it, not against it, but he wrote a lot of papers due to his speeches and everything else about finding a way to end slavery, which scared a lot of Southern politicians. They didn't even want to be bothered with him. So when he's elected, they scream foul that the Northern states are cheating, and they decide to succeed, which leads us to act number 2. South Carolina walks away, right? They're like, we don't want to be a part of this union anymore. We have the right to leave anytime we feel like it. We're going to take this time to walk away. We can start our own country. And other states slowly start following suit and start taking the federal forts at the ports and everything else, and not trying to pay money to the federal government. All the while, this is happening before Lincoln even is inaugurated in March. All this 100-day period between the election and March, all these states start making these moves. Okay, they start taking forts, they start taking federal property, the courthouses, everything else. Like, we are not going to be a part of this. So South Carolina starts first, then Mississippi, then Alabama, and the current president, the 15th president, is powerless. He's like, I don't know exactly what to do. Which leads us to number 3, the creation of a confederacy. The 7 states that decide to walk away from the Union, guys, want to go back to the AOC, the Articles of Confederation. They feel like using a combination of the Articles of Confederation and the current U.S. Constitution will guarantee them complete autonomy when they want it. This is a complete power grab by individual politicians and Southern politician states to keep slavery. They said they wanted to keep slavery. They meant to keep slavery. And this is where we talk about the lost cause myth, trying to spin what happened. It's primary sources by the politicians at the time that they wanted to keep slavery as a social and economic system. In Mississippi, in Alabama, in Texas, in Georgia, they want to keep it. They like, we need to keep it. It fits our way of life. As long as we make money, it's all that matters. Let them, they're not equal to us. We brought them here for the labor. Let it stay the way it is. As we move to number 3, Lincoln is then inaugurated. which takes us to number 4. Lincoln creates a draft. He said, I need a bigger army to put down this rebellion of these 7 states. And he tries to draft 75,000 soldiers into the army to put down these 7 states. We need to go in there and shut this down. They're taking federal property. This is an insurrection against the Constitution. And when he does that, 4 more states leave, the upper, what they call the upper North. We're a part of the upper North. This is where North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, and Arkansas all decide to join the Confederacy. Instead of trying to fight the other states, they're like, we're not fighting them. We would choose to join them before we stay with this union because we want to keep our slaves too. Okay, so now you try to take our slaves away. If you take theirs away, you take ours away. No, not having it. So now you got 11 states are against the other 18. Okay, which is huge. Okay? It's like, oh my goodness, all over slavery and states' rights. The war begins, and the initial part of this, as we move into the war begins in the first few fights, and we want to talk about the major ones. Number 5, we move up to the Anaconda Plan. The plan Lincoln sets out that he wants to do a 3-point plan. Cut off the ports, cut off the Mississippi, take Richmond, which it becomes the new Confederate capital, and pledge of loyalty to get these state governments back in line. The Emancipation Proclamation is an executive order by Lincoln after the battle at Antietam to stop the slave rebellions to having the resources from the slaves. So if the slaves can run away and be free, they do not have to listen to their slave masters anymore, because these individuals are using slave labor to help keep this fight going. We need to take the slaves away. And that's what they started doing. A lot of slaves start running away. They join the Union lines, which leads to using the slaves for labor, using slaves for soldiers, and trying to earn their freedom. Our climax of this story, we're trying to keep it as simple as possible, are the battles at Gettysburg and Vicksburg in 1863. So we already 3 years into the fight. The battles at Gettysburg and Vicksburg become the turning points because at this stage, the Mississippi River is cut off in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and Gettysburg, Pennsylvania in the north, he no longer has enough soldiers to fight offense anymore. So everything now from here on out is completely defensive. They're not going to let the slaves fight. This is from the Confederates. We want to keep them slaves. We don't want to get them no guns. We don't want to teach them. So we're going to have to play a completely defensive battle from here on out. We're running out of soldiers. They've either been captured, killed, or wounded. This is not going to work. And so that's why this is considered the turning point between, it's only a matter of time before the Confederates have to give up because they don't have an army strong enough, equipped enough. At this point, they've lost too many soldiers and they can't feed them. So they can't feed them. They can't move them around. The Union is destroying the railroad lines as they take city by city, county by county. They don't have the resources or the manufacturing to mass produce the equipment needed for war. Just not at the scale. It's just not there. As Grant then takes control of the army, finally for the Union, the battles at Atlanta and the March to the Sea, we go ahead and destroy Atlanta, which was the last major manufacturing hub, and destroy all of southern Georgia, all the way to Savannah, and then the campaign through the Carolinas, destroy South Carolina and North Carolina as well. Finally lead to give up Virginia. He surrenders his army in April 9th of 1865. I probably need to jot that down there just so you guys would know. April 9th of 1865, Lee surrenders at Appomattox Courthouse to Grant. because his army is literally starving, exhausted. He can't really feed them, and they're out of ammunition and weapons for the most part. So they're fighting sheerly on heart and guts at this point. There's just not much left. Um, so many have started to desert because they're worried about their families somewhere else because of what Sherman has been doing in the deeper South. Soldiers are deserting. He's willing to walk away. He doesn't want to see the soldiers suffering at this point. So he walks away from it instead of trying to drag it out into some type of guerrilla warfare, hit and run tactics. And he's a soldier. He's not going to devolve down into this fight to the last man when you have women and children that are literally starving now in Georgia, South Carolina, and Alabama. There's no farms, there's no food, there's no nothing. So realizing that, he's willing to stop. The resolution of this, guys, finally, just a few days later, is the assassination, the killing of Abraham Lincoln by the actor John Wilkes Booth at Forest Theater in DC. As we explained yesterday, April 12th, 1865, just a few days later. Well, I should say April 14th. And that was Good Friday. So he's shot in the back of the head in the theater because people were being lax with his security and everything else. He ends up dying Easter Sunday. So, he lived through Easter weekend, if you want to call that living, through Passover Saturday, and then ultimately he dies that Sunday morning. Nothing they could do for him. He has a bullet in his head. All they can do is bandage it up, wrap it up. But again, even in this day and time, that type of traumatic wound, there's no way even modern science can truly help anybody take that type of, like I said, shot. So I want to make sure that overall that you guys understand what has happened in that piece. So you see the overall scenario about the Civil War history and go through this 5 years. So with that being said,
Mr. Scales,
yes.
I just want to say that helped me a lot to better understand it.